I'm Grant Byrne. I'm a third-year student nurse at the University of Glasgow, and I'm on the RCN Student Committee as one of Scotland's 2 representatives. My biography would be, I'm from Glasgow. I'm from the East End of Glasgow, actually, which is one of the worst areas in terms of health inequality. In terms of, basically, we'll put it this way very simply, the fact that I was born there means I'm going to die younger than other people in Scotland. So that tells you really everything about where I'm from, I suppose. I also had my gran and my grandpa who I looked after. And I think in caring for them, you understand the needs of older people, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're cut out to be a nurse, purely because caring for your gran is very different, but it gives you great experience in being a nurse because you can then transfer that to your patients and say, that was my gran sitting there, if that was me or my mum, how would I want them to be treated? And as I got older, I realised I wanted to work with people, and I think nursing kind of fit the mould. When I actually looked into it, when I properly looked into it, I realised that it's the best career to work with people. It really is, because in any other job where you work with people, you don't get to know the people the way we do, because we get to know more than the person. We get to know their families. I've known nurses who've been invited to weddings, to christenings, to all these big events purely because they're there for so many aspects of someone's life. And I think that's the greatest thing that we should celebrate in our job. So I suppose nursing is a very difficult course. It really is. So you've got everything that a normal student has. So you have your essays, you have your exams, you have your studying, then you also have placement. And we get a great bursary, don't get me wrong, in comparison with other students, but when you actually work it out, we're not getting paid that much for working what is essentially a full-time job. And so I also work part-time as well. So when I'm on placement, I'm on 6 days. And it's not easy, but if you balance your time right, and if you really do commit, and not everyone does that, don't get me wrong, not everyone has a part-time job, but it's really worth it for the end goal. That's the thing you have to remember through it all, and God knows I hate exams, I hate essays, but I like getting good grades, so it's a balance, and I think it's all worth it for
What
the job.
What advice would you give to a student starting out in September?
I think really you need to be realistic. So you go into the job and just keep a very open mind. Ask loads of questions, because nurses love it. Doctors love it as well. See, and don't get me wrong, don't be rude, don't interrupt people, but if you don't know something, and it might not be the right time, but keep it for later, write it down. So that's a good one. Carry a pad with you. Get good shoes. Get decent moisturiser for your hands, because they're going to be red raw. And I think as well, just love it. Really, really throw yourself into it. And you know what, there's bits that you're not going to like, but there's so much made up by all the great things and all the great people you get to meet. I suppose the qualities that I think I have is I do like talking to patients. I like involving them. And I think, see, when you're doing a blood pressure and you go in, something so small as a conversation means the world to someone who's been lying in a hospital bed all day and all they really want is their family. Now, in Scotland, I'm very fortunate that we do have open visiting hours in most of our wards now. So we do have family members there, but even then, there's a lot of people who don't have family. And we as nurses well, me as a person, I just love getting to know people. I love being the one who sits with the patient as I'm doing my paperwork. Because, it's all about company as much as it is about caring. When I qualify, my big plan is to move to London currently. So my long-term goal would be to start off in general medical, because I want a kind of solid foundation, and move on to HDU because I like the really close personal care that you deliver there and how you get to know the patient. I'd like to work abroad for a while, because I think it makes you more rounded, gives you a more rounded view of healthcare in the world, because the NHS is a very different organisation to the bulk of the planet. In some ways we're very fortunate, in some ways there's ways we can learn from other countries, and I think unless you get out there and see it, it's very difficult to imagine.